All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a fundamental piece of your digital life, the firewall. It's that invisible shield you count on every single day, and we're going to break down exactly how it works and how it keeps you safe.
So think about it for a sec. Every time you're online, you're connected to, well, basically the entire world. Billions of devices. What's actually stopping someone from just wandering into your digital house?
Well, that's where the firewall comes in. And honestly, the best way to think about it is as your own personal digital gatekeeper. It stands right at the front door of your network, and it gets to decide who comes in and who gets told to beat it. But how does this gatekeeper actually know who's a friend and who's a foe? It's not just a random guess. No, it's a very specific, methodical process. Let's look at its four-step playbook. It all happens pretty fast, but it boils down to four key steps. First, it monitors traffic, meaning it looks at every single packet of data that tries to come in or go out. Second, it checks the rules. You can think of this as the guest list. Does this data packet have an invitation? Third, it makes a decision. It's a simple yes or no. Either the gate opens or it stays shut. And finally, it keeps a log of everything, so you have a record of who's been knocking on your door. Okay, I know that can sound a little abstract, so let's make it real. Let's say a hacker is actively trying to get into your network right now. So the hacker tries to use an old, insecure digital doorway, we'll call it port 23. But your firewall, it looks at its rulebook, and its rulebook says, nope, the only door I open is port 443, which is the secure one for encrypted web traffic. The firewall sees that mismatch instantly. And boom, connection denied. The gatekeeper did its job, and that threat was neutralized before it ever had a chance to get past the front step. Simple as that. Now, just like in the real world, you don't just have one type of security guard, right? You've got everything from a simple bouncer to a full-blown high-tech security team. Firewalls are the exact same way. They've gotten a lot smarter over the years. You can really see the evolution here. We started with basic packet filtering. That's kind of what your home router does, just checking the address on the mail. Then you get stateful inspection, which is smarter because it remembers the conversations that are happening. A proxy firewall is even sneakier. It pretends to be you hiding your real network. And then you have the big guns, next-generation firewalls that can actually read the contents of the data, and cloud firewalls that live online to protect cloud apps. Let's just focus on that next-generation firewall, or NGFW, for a second. This is pretty much the gold standard for any serious security setup today. Why? Because it doesn't just check the address on the envelope. It actually opens it up and reads the letter inside. It uses advanced features to spot much more sophisticated threats. Okay, so this is all great information, but how do you actually use it? How do you make sure your own digital gatekeeper is awake and on the job? Let's walk through a few really simple things you can do right now. First things first, let's talk about the device you're probably watching this on, your personal computer. The good news is both Windows and macOS have really solid firewalls built right in. If you're on Windows, just head to your control panel, find the Windows Defender firewall, and make sure it's turned on. If you're a Mac user, go to System Settings, click on Network, then Firewall, and just flip the switch to enable it. Seriously, it's usually just a click or two, and it gives you a huge layer of protection. So your computer's covered. But what about everything else connected to your Wi-Fi? Your phone, your tablet, your smart TV, all that stuff? Well, they all hide behind the firewall built into your internet router. To check on this one, you'll have to log into your router's settings. It sounds technical, but it's usually as easy as typing an address like 192.168.1.1 into your web browser. Once you're in, just look for a tab that says Security or Firewall, and, you guessed it, make sure it's enabled. This one check protects every single device in your home. Now, when we start talking about businesses and servers, things get a lot more serious. The stakes are way higher, so the setup is naturally a lot more complex. It's less of a single gatekeeper and more like building a fortress. The whole philosophy is different. Businesses use dedicated firewalls, either hardware or in the cloud. They create super strict rules that basically say block everything by default and only let in what we know is safe. They also connect their firewalls to other security systems for a layered defense. And maybe most important of all, it is a never-ending process of reviewing and updating those rules. And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway here. A firewall isn't something you just switch on and then forget about. Good security has to be a living, breathing process. This quote really hits the nail on the head, so I want to read it directly. Continuously review and update rules to adapt to new threats. The internet is always changing, and so are the bad guys. Your defenses have to change and adapt right along with them.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. It is awesome that your firewall is on, but the real question is it ready for what's coming tomorrow? Keeping that question front and center is your best bet for staying safe out there. Thanks for watching.